Sorry. There we go. I gotta have the camera pointing up rather than pointing down. Because, I don't like to show everybody. You know what I mean? Like, if all y'all see is me and the trees, that's fine. That is preferable. Hello, everyone. It's me, obviously. Time for another chat and walk or chalk. And my brain, I semi-rehearsed this. I was like, time for another chalk, a chat and walk. But when I went to say it, it came out backwards. So I am back in my chalking place. Just had lunch with a friend, and I don't know, life is wild. Wow. It's not even epitaph. I'll pull up and there's this dude walking these two black dogs. Not too big, but I don't know, kind of giving me hellhounds. And is that the moon card? I think it's the moon card in the tarot apocalypsis that has Hecate and the two dogs. Give me some Persephone. I have gloves now. My grandma got me these for Christmas. So thanks, Grandma. You're not gonna watch this. If you're watching this, Grandma, click off. Cause of snotsicles. Hey, Sandra. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure where you're at, you know a lot more about snotsicles than me. But for all of the green Christmases that we've had, this one I guess is supposed to be extra white. So there'll be a system moving in on like Thursday, I think. But anyway, I have a guest with me today. It's the Lafruma. I have the Lafruma. You forget to wear gloves and mittens. I feel like back in the day, they used to make really good gloves that were like super like thick and puffy, not as sleek, but well insulated. It seems like here lately, everything is like this thin cloth, woven whatever, and it's like, these are not like wintertime gloves. These might be like autumn gloves, because when it's cold, those gloves don't do nothing. So I'm hoping these work out a little better. Hey, Holly, how you doing? My grandma was like, oh, they say maximum heat or whatever. So, and they got the tech fingertip. I don't know if you can see it. Tech finger, so I can like interact with my phone. But yeah, I'm not a huge glove wearer. Yeah, it only has it on this one though. But there was a thinner pair that I was gonna get because it has texting fingers. So complain about the problem and then don't be a part of the solution. I'm just kidding. It's funny though, because that came up, and I was talking with my mom about something that came up during lunch, and she was like, when people make their choices and decisions in life and it leads them to inconvenience, like, you don't have to point out the inconveniences of their choices to them, because they already know. They made the choice and they're like dealing with it. And I was like, ooh. I was like, I hope I ain't make nobody feel bad. Because I was just like, I know that you've missed out on this and you've missed out on that. Like, when you get the time, please take it to do this thing that you really want to do. Please. For me, for your friend, please. But of course, I didn't just say it that way. I was like, oh, like, you were going to do this, but then you couldn't do it because you got sick. And then you're going to do this, but you couldn't do it because another life change. And now you're telling me that you're not going to be able to do something else. Like, you do so much. You deserve to do this thing that you really want to do, that you've been looking forward to. You deserve to participate in the celebration. Please don't miss out on it. But, before I said that, because he was like, before I even made it that far, he was like, are you trying to make me feel sad? And I was like, no, I'm not, I promise. It's just that, like, me acknowledging how much you've sacrificed to make it to this point and to be in the position to receive the opportunities that you're receiving now. And I admire and I appreciate you so much for that. Respect you so much. It's honestly inspiring. I'm just saying, you will have the time. If you say something now, it'll be easier to actually do it so you don't have to miss it. Just plant this seed, make plans. So not like make plans like flight plans, but like make plans in your work schedule. Let people know so that you can actually have that time, so that it'll be protected and there'll be contingencies and everything else in place. So, but I was like, ooh. But I guess, I don't know, that kind of, yes, exactly that, Holly. Exactly that. And it was like, there's always time to work hard. We can do that whenever. But anyway, these gloves are a little thick to be trying to grab a La Fruma. I still have them in the little like burlap sack thing. So I am going to take the non-camera, our phone, my non-phone holding hand out of the glove. And then we'll see what La Fruma comes out today. Whew. Like I said, I'm nervous, girl. I'm nervous because La Fruma by itself can already go there. You know what I mean? Let alone here. But how are y'all? How are y'all doing today? This is my second day of being unemployed. Or temporarily unemployed, I guess. I am actually going to take these. Who was that? Oh, I can't see the name. Win. It's Win. I am going to take these out of the sack because it'll make it a little easier to grab the cards. So, could I have done that before I started this video? Yeah, duh, of course. Did I? Because it makes my life inconvenient? No, I didn't. Did yours arrive, Holly? I can't remember if I saw you say or not. I know Corey got his, San got hers, and obviously like Eve, Treadle. Whew. Whew. All right. Those were the dogs. They look friendly enough. One of them tried to jump on my leg. Tried to jump on me. That's so cute. Good vibes. I guess he was gonna come after me. He heard me talking about him. Where's she? I don't know. Could be a girl. But it feels a little disrespectful, you know what I mean? So anyway, it is not too cold today, which I love. Last week has been amazing and enlightening. Glad to hear it. I finished God of War, so that's what I've been doing. I finished God of War night before last, or last night. I don't know what time is anymore. I think it was the night before last I finished it, because I don't think I played it yesterday. Excuse me, like I finished the base game or whatever. So anyway, La Fruma, the first card. Oh, girl, okay. It's Ool. Ool is interesting because I feel like it's an energy that we've been building up to. Or it's an energy that's like been peaking and peeping. It did actually make an appearance at the cut with the Animal Watchers on one of these videos. And then it actually came out for a sign. And I think the last time I was live, it came out too. It might have actually been I know it came out on the other channel, but I think it came out over here. Whew, I don't know if I'm gonna be able to read these poems because I'm already out of breath. I feel like I've been talking a mile a minute. Like I was talking to one of my friends on Snapchat yesterday. I was like, I feel like he's talking so fast. And then I replied and I was like, I feel like I'm talking so fast. Why is everybody talking so fast? I can't breathe. Oh, can I breathe? That cold, dry winter air. Omen of astral shadow boxing, shape shifting night ruler, owl heralds prophecy from beyond this place. So wake up. Pause, be totally still, move not a muscle, and tune into the rustlings of the night. Adjust your perception and see, hear, smell, taste, reach, and feel with your inner owl vision. What's there behind the hoot? I like what's there behind the hoot because it feels like that hoot, instead of an owl hoot, it's like a ruckus. Like it was a hoot and a half or a hoot nanny or something like that. It's like what's behind the symphony, what's behind the orchestra, what's behind the noise, what's behind the static, what's behind the thing that is easiest to perceive. And so it almost feels like, I would say it's almost like it feels like a motivation or reason. Like what's the reasoning behind what's occurring? What's the motivation behind the actions? What are the intentions? But honestly, behind that, it feels like there's a silence. I guess if I listen. But it's like there's all of the noise, and then there's a silence, and then there's something behind the silence. And the thing behind the silence, it's like, as it comes forward, there's gonna be, it's like it'll get loud. It's almost like it's the word before it's spoken, before it's yelled, or before everything else is silent, right? So maybe it's like a thought, like someone's thinking, oh, I'm gonna say this when it reaches this point in the conversation. Maybe it's a line that's been rehearsed. It's like, that is my cue. When my cue comes, like, this is what I'll say. But if it is something rehearsed, or even if it's something being withheld for a moment, it's almost like in preparation of that moment, the thing gets louder and louder and louder in the person's mind because they're mentally preparing themselves to say it. So it's still like, feels like it's at the back of the mind. It's behind the silence. Then the moment will come, the cue will come, it'll get louder in the mind, and then it will be spoken. If that makes any sense. Whew! I don't know if y'all can hear how hard I'm breathing, but I ain't been out here in a minute. Whew. And my throat is getting dry. Ugh. So, what is, I want to get what's the riffraff? First is the hoot. The hoot is your destiny and the world serpent. It's number 28, which is a 10. Oh, look. So I'll show you where I am when I pull the world serpent. I'm at this little roundabout. You see that? This little roundabout? I always walk on the outside just to get some more steps. Oop. Come on, there we go. Now we're back. So it's funny that I pull the Ouroboros at the roundabout. And I guess the Great Serpent is a card that came out. It's been making a few appearances in the Wild Unknown Alchemy. And it talks about the things that are transmuted within the belly of the beast. Because I remember being like, where do snakes poop? Because if the snake is biting its own tail, does it have to eat its own poop? And somebody was like, no. It's not a snake centipede. So um, the noise is destiny. Or that's the thing, like when we get silent, when we get quiet, when we go within, that's the thing that comes to the surface first. So I feel like it makes sense, right? A lot of times, not a lot of times, sometimes when we engage in practices of quieting the mind or mindfulness or meditation, it is to receive guidance or to see what naturally comes to the surface from within. And then we go from there. But Ul, at least today, is asking us to keep listening. And it's funny because, so last night I was watching I've been watching a lot of like movies recapped on YouTube. And sometimes every now and then it'll be like a TV show instead of a movie. So I was like, oh man. And then I have to rely on them. Not only do I have to rely on the TV show having aired to get more of the story, I got to rely on the content creator having recapped that. I'm like, oh man. So last night it was an episode of a show, but it was the Twilight Zone. So there's not always continuity between the episodes, right? But anyway, it was this episode 1015. It was 1015, October 15th. The flight number 1015 on October 15th, delayed until 10:15 p.m. And they're like, oh, it mysteriously crashed. And this person is on the plane and he finds a MP3 player, I guess. It's like, what's a generic word for iPod that's not iPod? He finds an MP3 player with a podcast on it that's like, the mysterious flight 1015. And he's like listening to the podcast, and then he's like trying to figure out, like, first he doesn't believe, but then it's like, yeah, there was this flock of cormorants that the plane flew through, and one of them flew into the engine. And then it happens. He's like, whoa, this podcast is legit. So he's listening to the podcast, and as he's listening, he's trying to figure it out before it happens. So he'll listen to the podcast, then he'll do whatever, he'll hit a wall, he'll listen to some more of the podcast, he'll get a new lead, he'll do whatever else, he'll hit another wall. And that was the process. Listen, do, listen, do, listen, do. Of course, and I guess we can extrapolate this to prophecy in some way. We don't have to, but we can if we want to. We can also, include intuition and anything sort of high priestessy in that if we want to. We don't have to. But it's like, we listen, we get a piece, we act, we hit a wall. We listen, we get a piece, we act, we hit a wall. Ultimately, at the end of the day, he became a key figure in everything going wrong. And then after the plane crash lands, and he's like, because there was one part where it was like, there are 3 suspects. It was going suspect by suspect number 1. Well, let me go and investigate suspect number 2. 1. Suspect number 2. Well, let me go investigate suspect number 2. Oh, it's not them either. Suspect number 3 was him. And he's like, what? Because he knows he doesn't do anything, right? Anyway, after everything goes down, he ends up listening to the podcast. And of course, the podcast tells him everything. I guess all of this is just to say, it's almost like if we wait to get the full picture, if we wait to hear more of the story, then it's almost like the podcast or intuition, it's set up in a way to help us navigate paths in life, to help us make choices if that's what we're doing, right? But it's like sometimes if we don't listen all the way, we can end up inadvertently causing the very thing that we wanted to prevent. Then we become the key reason why it happens in the first place. So I think it just plays on that, like, because then it's also like, if you listen for the silence, you'll know when the message is over. Just like, oops. Just like conversation, right? You listen for the silence, and then you know it's your turn to speak. And then the person that you're talking with, they listen for the silence, then they know that it's their turn to speak. If it's a dynamic conversation, if it's a conversation with a friend, sometimes you just, you cut in, you butt in, you do whatever. It's not always cut and dry. But that's why we're listening to the silence, so we receive a complete instruction. I love this guy. Like when it's there, like the blues and the... Anyway. So Ul is saying, listen for the silence to know when we've received a complete packet of information, so then we know what more to do. Whew, goodness. There's so much I feel a snot coming on. I feel a snot. Next, so the silence is Bjork. Begin poplar tree. So in the silence, again, I guess like I was saying, that's how you know when that set of instructions is complete. Then you act on it. Then you do the thing, right? So let's say that like if there's crossroads in your life that you've reached, and so you get silent, you reflect, you go to spirit. You're like, spirit, like, who's Santa Claus? Oh, my hand's getting a little cold. Let me put it back inside. You go like, what do? I have these two choices in front of me, right? Maybe the conversation is, if you pick option number one, then blah, blah, blah. If you pick option number two, then da, da, da. And like, here are some extra sort of things that you can get. But it's almost like, if we only listen long enough, if we only hear pick option number one, and then we go and do the thing, there's a whole bunch of information that was going to be offered to us that we don't get because we didn't listen all the way, or it was selective hearing, and it's a thing, we're human. We go there, we be there. But it's like there's a completeness to the message that in our excitement and our whatever, we just didn't hear all the way through. So now it's like, after you hit the silence, after you've heard your options, because it's almost like in that way too, it still provides us with a choice. If the entire conversation is, if you pick option one, this will happen. If you pick option two, that will happen. Silence. Then it's like, okay, so let me go through the pros and cons of option one. Let me go through the pros and cons of option two. And now let me like decide which I'd rather take, right? So in that way, it's not necessarily telling you to pick either one or two. It's just letting you know. But again, if you only hear like pick option one, then it's like, oh, well, like, why did you tell me to do this? And again, life choices, pathways, your is destiny. But again, like, it's almost like, I don't know, it feels like misconception or a miscommunication. Because in that specific case, and not saying that's ever relevant or accurate, but just saying in that case, again, like, we weren't told to pick option one. We just tuned out the rest of the conversation. But if we only ever pick option one, then yeah, it's probably going to feel like destiny because that's all we listen to. It's almost like we're not still enough in those moments. And I hesitate to say that because I feel like we can hit a crossroads and we can be stuck for quite a while sometimes. So it's not about like being stuck at a crossroads. It's just like we're not still enough to engage our power of choice, maybe. I don't know. So that's the silence. The silence is our cue to begin. The silence is, okay, that was the totality of the message. There's all the information that is available to you. Now you may proceed. Because even with Ul, like, I don't think Ul is necessarily, like the card said, it's all about perception. Oof. So the mumble behind, I almost got a card, but I couldn't pull it. Oh, number 24, day purged is, can you see it? There you go. Oh, the sun feels, I can feel the warmth. I can feel the warmth of the sun today. It's not like, oh, it's so cold and so bright. Nah, you can feel the warmth today. Day purged. So the silence is our moment to begin. Oh, it moves into the day. Maybe. I think so. Because, again, I guess if we follow the thread, if we follow the line, when we listen to the complete set of instructions, when we get all the information that is ours to have to make that choice and decision, and then we make it, when in that time to begin, it's the conversation. We wait for the silent part, we speak, and when we're speaking, we're doing more than thinking. Sometimes, it depends on the situation. Sometimes it is just us in that moment of silence, in that moment of stillness, in that time of connection. Maybe there is something that we propose to Spirit, and then Spirit follows through with more conversation. Like maybe we ask questions. It's a Q&A after the presentation that, we stuck around for. But I think sometimes it can also be doing. It can be the action. It can be us following through on what we were saying. So we're doing the action, we're doing the thinking, we're doing the speaking, and then we go silent. And then the universe responds because it's a conversation. And it seems like there are different levels of aggressiveness in the participation of that conversation. Like sometimes Spirit will cut in. Sometimes they'll cut you off. Sometimes they'll be so loud that you can't hear yourself think. Other times it's like, oh, you want to cut me off? Okay. Or you don't want to speak? That's the end of the conversation? Okay. Like, I'm not going to shout. I'm not going to yell. I'm not going to talk over you. Oh, I came out of the shadow and hit the sun. Oh, I can feel the warmth. Let me roast my pulling hand for a second, warm it up. So then the day purged is when Spirit comes back and follows up that conversation. Now it feels like the day purged is like, at that point it feels like the conversation is over. Now it's time for something to happen, right? So like there was option 1, there was option 2. We listen to the full thing, we make the choice. So now it's almost like now we can discern the difference between the next thing and the consequence for the first thing, right? Now we know when we're actually moving to the next conversation rather than hitting resume on the podcast that we're listening to while we're freaking out trying to solve something. Right now we know, oh, it's the next podcast episode, or it's the next song, it's the next whatever. Because with the entirety of the context, it's like, if you pick this one, it's going to be about 2 years, and this is going to happen, that's going to happen, the other thing's going to happen. You'll get through it. And then it's like, well, if you actually live it, it's like, that thing happened, yes, but it happened in a way that I completely did not expect. Like when you said that this would happen, I thought it would play out this completely other way. And it's like, we didn't say it will play out how you thought it would. We just said that, hey, this is what's going to happen, And then, when it's over. Rather than being like, well, why am I still in the same whatever? And it's like, well, if you would have listened to the whole thing, you would have known that this is still a part of the first thing that you were talking about, So anyway, that's what it's reading like. That's what it's feeling like. That one feels complete. I have about 4/5 of a lap left. So I'm going to pull another card and we'll see if this goes somewhere else. Moving on. Next is the horse rune. Horse move eh. I've been seeing a lot of man lately. Horse and man are similar. If you degaz or dege the bottom of horse, you'll get man, I think. Yeah, I'm pretty sure man is the one where it's like day, but you draw it out. Eye to eye, nose to nose, lose yourself in the frequency of other. Moving forwards with, I love that I'm like walking into the sun now. Moving forwards with confidence or caution depends upon your heightened senses. Depending upon your heightened senses, that all helped us achieve, I guess. What does the other need from you? What do you desire from another to cover and comfort you with that you cannot do alone? Can you not feed yourself? Must someone else always lead you to the water? It's a question. Ooh. It feels like there's water in this card, but there's like a splash of red. Like there, I can't see my phone because of the sun. It's like, oof. There's blood in the water. That's what it's looking like. But I guess blood in the water, it makes me think of like a water birth. Like something is being born in the water, and the blood that's in the water is not from a kill, it's from a birth, which is interesting because that brings forward an energy of something feeling like an ending when in reality it's a beginning. It's kind of semantics because beginnings are endings and endings are beginnings. When one thing ends, another begins, almost always. Even if the end of everything is the beginning of nothing, you know what I mean? It's something that we read as an ending, but in reality it's a beginning. It's from birth. That's after birth. Okay. Oh, Eve! Hello, Eve. Thank you. It's reaching the point where the cold is starting to get me. So we have afterbirth. A beginning that feels like an ending. If we think it's an ending, then the afterbirth would bring on like a misery or a grief rather than the excitement that we associate with birth, unless birth is a painful, they say that birth is a painful experience and babies are crying from the trauma of it. But it's almost like if we could, with our heightened senses, if we could see it, feel it, smell it, breathe it, live it, perceive a way of the birth rather than the death, we would be in an energy of celebration rather than mourning. And it's moving forward. Okay, what's the question? I want to know what's accompanying this movement. Earth's grip, return. Earth grab is a card that's showing up. Oh, it's number 29. We're in the 20s. Well, today is the 20th. There was like 24, 26, now 29. I wasn't paying attention to the, 19, I think. 19 was horse. But Earth's grip has been coming out a lot lately. And it's Earth grip, it's return. I feel like a lot of times it's easy to see it as a card of limitation or a rune of a limit has been reached, there is no more. It's something that's kept away from us ergo something withheld. But there was an energy with earth grab where it's almost like Ethel, I don't know the other name of it, the original birthright rune. It's almost like earth is the keeper of those birthrights. And once we reach a certain state, once we reach a certain space, once we come of age, earth is the one that returns it. It holds it for us until we're responsible enough, mature enough, whatever, enough to claim it. And so the thing that has been stuck on earth, the thing that has been stagnant, the thing that has been withheld, the thing that the earth keeper has been keeping, protecting, now it's like we see that we're in a space to receive it. And it's funny that the silence is here again, because last time I walked back here there were quite a few vehicles. Again, the sun is right there. You can probably tell when I'm facing the sun, because I can tell when I'm not. I also can tell when I can, because it's harder for me to see the screen. It feels like all that was withheld is in the space of being returned. Again, that which the earth kept is now moving. That which was stagnant is now finding itself dynamic. And that's panic. That's why it feels like an ending. Oh, there's vehicle noise. 3 honks for panic. Panic at the taxi. Death cab for panic. Death cab to the disco. I don't know, anyway. Yeah, it feels like there's a mountain that we live near. All of a sudden, one day, we hear rumbling. And we're like, we have that realization. It's like, oh my gosh, the mountain is actually a volcano and it's been dormant. Now it's active. Lava is about to flow. Ash is about to fall. Girl, we in danger. We gotta go. It's panic because something is moving that has been still for so long, but there's no reason to panic. Again, heightened senses tell us it's birthing, it's afterbirth. We should be in celebration. Should be, could be, we can be in celebration. Rather than it's the beginning of the end, the earth will open beneath our feet, and then, yeah, I was like intentionally trying to mix them up, but I was getting confused with the mix up. Because it's that confusion. Because it's like, whoa, like what's happening? And I guess if I think about it, if I extrapolate a little bit, there are a lot of changes that we're experiencing in life right now. And it's easy to associate a lot of these changes with the end of something, which it is, but it's also the beginning of something else. And it can be the beginning of something beautiful, or our fear and I'll just say our fear, or our fear can convince us to panic into thinking that there is no beginning after this end. So that was associated with the movement. That which was dormant within the earth is now moving, is that complete energy. So where is this stillness? It's the title card! No! It's in the collective. So this is the thank you. There are 2 title cards in the Fruma. Well, there's one actual title card, and then there's the thank you card. This is the thank you title card. This is the card that mentions how it was a collaborative process that makes this a collective experience. The collective is where the stillness is. Where's the movement? If I pull the other title card, that's the end of the video. I'm almost at the card, by the way. 2 cards. Well, here's that resolution. Gotan, Gutton, maybe I'll say Gutton, and Kanafa, 71 and 57. These blood sacrifices, the knave, that's what's being resolved and gutting. Oh, well, that, it reads as very dogmatic. If the stillness was within the collective, and if the thing being resolved, or where the movement is coming in to resolve something, it's rites of passage. Can be read as initiations. It's all of these things that we have to do to get somewhere. It makes sense because when our senses weren't heightened, it was more difficult to access those spaces. Those spaces required ritual to break through the noise. But when the noise quiets down, or when we move closer to the void, when we pierce through it to another veil, it's like we don't have to go through all of that ritual to hear. And because of that, it reads as a maturation that comes to be because of an independence, which is interesting. I mean, then we actually move rather than walking predestined paths. So part of the same conversation, but it's the next thing. Interesting. Then we live life truly, fully, an integrated life. It's not like we completely reject the spiritual. We don't completely reject the physical either. Because at that point, you know that they're not separate. And again, because they're not separate, it doesn't require ritual to engage. It's an open conversation. You can show up at any time. So with that, my chalk has come to an end. The La Fruma behaved better than I thought it would. It didn't scare me. It wasn't anything too, oh my gosh. It is interesting though, because it feels like for as much as we gain from ritual, and ritual doesn't have to be like candles and crystals and full moon, new moon, this transit, that transit. Ritual is everything. Ritual can be meditation. Going to a place, setting the vibe, sitting in a certain position, quieting your mind, opening it, that's all ritual. Ritual basically includes anything that leads us to connection, that takes us out of where we are. When again, at a certain point, there is no separation. So we can find it anywhere. But it's almost like in all of that, it's good when our senses are dulled. It's good when connection is difficult because it sets the space and it allows. But it feels like that space also restricts, and that space also confines. So that space in turn dictates what we receive and what we don't, or how much of it we can. I don't know. That's the end of this. Thanks, Holly, Eve, Sandra, for being here. Anybody else, if you're watching, I hope you got something out of it. I hope you all have a good whatever, whenever. I hope you're acting in alignment to make all that you wish to experience your reality. And Jupiter did enter Aries today. And I hope that whatever you need along your path, journey, or way, you find. I hope you don't freeze solid in the cold if it's cold, and I hope you don't turn to ash if it's hot where you're at. And yeah, I'll see y'all next time. Bye.